more support from their superintendent and administrators, we might have been able to pull off the upset. But tonight I'm going to talk about Jenny Lopez and Kevin Botticello. Their coaches put together a small write-up, and I'm happy to share it. So Jenny this year scored her 1,000th point, joining her brothers David, who's her assistant coach, and Jaden in 2023, who also scored 1,000 points. So they will all be up on the banner, pretty much one right after another. Pretty cool. She finished her career with 1,166 points, 487 rebounds, 485 assists, and 440 steals. So she did it all. She was a Class S All-State player in 2024 and is a four-time ECC All-Star. She finished the season averaging close to 17 points, over 6 assists, more than 4 steals, and more than 6 rebounds. She also got to the foul line and made 64 foul shots. So Jenny has definitely left her mark on the court, and we are very proud of all her accomplishments. So congratulations to Jenny Lopez. Quickly going back to the PTA event, I have heard from several people that the highlight was Kevin dunking it on the Harlem Tricksters. I think they were a little surprised by that, but I recently spoke to Coach Gaiman, who put together a write-up that I'd like to share. It's an absolute honor to recognize Kevin Botticello, our senior captain, for his outstanding achievements both on and off the court. Kevin has been the heart and soul of the Lyman Memorial basketball team this season, leading by example with his work ethic, dedication, and competitive spirit. This season, Kevin reached an incredible milestone, scoring his 1,000th career point, cementing his place among some of the best to play at Lyman Memorial. However, another truly historic performance that Kevin had was against Grasso Tech, where Kevin erupted for 53 points in one game, setting a new school record. Beyond the numbers, Kevin's impact goes far beyond the stat sheet. He's a leader in every sense of the word, pushing his teammates to be better, holding himself accountable, and playing the game with passion and respect. His dedication, perseverance, and love for the game have left a mark on our program, and we couldn't be prouder to celebrate him. Congratulations, Kevin. Next, we'll move to the wrestling mat, and we're pleased to honor Calvin Samarco. Coach Strout put together a write-up, and I will share it now. Tonight, we're honored to recognize Calvin for his incredible achievement as a state wrestling champion. Calvin's victory is historic. He's the first underclassman in our program's history to win a state title, a testament to his relentless work ethic and competitive spirit. His championship marks the 9th state champion for our program since Coach Strout started in 2014, and it's safe to say this one was earned through sheer determination. Calvin embodies what it means to be a champion. His never-say-die attitude carried him through every grueling practice, every tough match, and every challenge this season. He's not afraid to take risks, to push himself beyond limits, and to trust his ability to rise after every setback. Some might even call it stubbornness, but in wrestling, we call it tenacity, and that's a trait of the greats. Tonight is also special because Calvin's name now joins his brother Cameron on our list of state champions, making them the third set of siblings, joining Mason and Mitchell LaFlamme and Johan and Jared Sweat. Wrestling is often a family affair, and the Samarcos have continued that legacy in impressive fashion. Of course, success like this does not happen alone. Coach Strout wants to take a moment to acknowledge Calvin's parents, Brian and Tracy, for their unwavering support, not just for Calvin, but for the entire wrestling program. Wrestling is not a sport of bright lights and big media. It's a sport of discipline, self-motivation, and an unmatched level of mental and physical toughness. Success in this sport is not handed out, it's earned in empty gyms, and it's forged through sweat-soaked mornings, lonely practices, and quiet suffering of setbacks that hit harder than any victory ever shines. For every triumph, there's countless struggles, losses that linger longer than wins, moments of exhaustion when quitting seems easier than continuing, and doubts that creep in when no one's watching. But Calvin never quit. He never sought recognition, he simply embraced the grind, pushed forward through the toughest moments, and refused to let the setbacks define him. That resilience, that unwavering determination is why he stands here today, not just as a state champion, but embodying the spirit of what the sport is truly about. Calvin, congratulations on this well-earned and deserved honor. Last but certainly not least, this young lady has been recognized before for her accomplishments, and I don't think this will be the last time. Hazel DeLucia. After a very successful cross-country season, this athlete continued with a very accomplished indoor track season. During the course of the season, she broke 4 records, the 2 oldest dating back to 2007. At the East Coast Invite, she broke the 800-meter record, and at the ECC Championships, the 1,000, the 1,600, and the 3,200. At the ECC Championship meet, she had first place finishes in the 1,000, 1,600, and 3,200, which earned her a spot as an ECC All-Star. At the Class S state meet, running the 3,200, she placed first, earning the position of All-State, and at the State Open, she finished third, qualifying and running at the New Englands. She's also been selected as the Domino's ECC Female Indoor Track Athlete of the Year. Congratulations, Hazel. Not that you don't have enough certificates and plaques and trophies, but I'll give you one more and ask if you wouldn't mind taking a picture out in the atrium with the principals. Cal, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep. Hazel. Congratulations. Kevin, congratulations. Thanks for being here tonight. Yeah, that's Jen. Thank you. All right, also on the agenda, we did have the LMHS musical production. We were actually going to take a brief recess and go to the auditorium and get a preview of the Legally Blonde show that will be going on this weekend. However, some of the performers in that presentation are not feeling well, and they thought it was better that they stay home rest so that they're not sick for the actual performance. But I was asked to remind you that there's a dress rehearsal exclusive for staff on Thursday at 4, and they wanted to invite you if you could make that. But again, if you can't make it on Thursday, there are shows throughout the day on Saturday. All right, moving on to communication, we do have a letter of resignation. It is for our facilities maintainer, Christopher Daniels. He writes that he's formally resigning from his position effective March 7th. After thoughtful consideration, he decided to pursue other opportunities that align more closely with his long-term goals. He says he's grateful for the support and the professional development he received during his time here, and just wants to thank everybody for the opportunity to be a part of Lebanon Public Schools.
Thank you. Would you like to back up just one?
Oh, did I skip over one of the most important parts? Yes, I am so sorry. So this month is Board of Education Appreciation Month. We appreciate you every month and every day of this tireless work that you do. I know we had a presentation earlier with Shipman and Goodwin, and they talked about how hard it is to be a good board member. We recognize that, and the least we could do is give you that little notepad to tell you that we take note of all that you do, and we appreciate you, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the reminder.
No. So we done with that, was the only communication, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we will move on to public participation. In accordance with Board Bylaws 9011, we invite public participation. We have allotted a total of 30 minutes. Each community member is allowed 2 minutes. If you would like to make a statement, come to the table, say your full name and your address. Is there anyone in the community who would like to make a public comment? Come up, please.
I am Mary Collins. This is my son, Jason Collins. My husband is still driving here, so unfortunately, that's a little unfortunate. We live at 259 Wyndham Ave in Colchester, Connecticut. I've never done this before, so I don't know if there's like a timer. Like this is literally.
Yeah, I'll start. If
Okay.
you're ready to roll, then I'll.
All right. We formally request that the Board of Education conduct a full investigation into Lyman's class rank system. This should include a review of how it is documented in the program of studies versus how it is actually calculated by guidance department. Most importantly, we ask that the investigation examine how these discrepancies have affected this year's top 10 ranked students. Additionally, we urge the board to address the disadvantages and inequalities faced by ag and out-of-town students. These students are required to take an additional mandatory weighted class that other students do not, putting them at a clear disadvantage in the ranking process. There have been multiple shortcomings within the guidance department at Lyman, including the dissemination of incomplete and misleading information to students. These failures directly impact students' academic goals, financial planning for college, and most critically, their mental health. It is unacceptable that students are forced to bear the consequences of guidance department errors. Jason relied upon information given to him by his guidance counselor, and in doing so was eliminated from reaching his goal. Now we are met with the response that this is simply a good life lesson for Jason, one where he must accept a different path due to the mistakes of paid professionals. No student, including Jason, should have their academic journey altered due to administrative negligence. Therefore, we are letting you know that we will not be dropping this matter and we will pursue it further if needed. We hope this investigation leads to meaningful progress and improved communication at Lyman, rather than the continued reliance on "that's the way we've always done it." Every student deserves an equal opportunity when it comes to class rank, graduation requirements, and access to high-quality guidance services. Since the Board of Education email listed on your site comes back as indeliverable, we will make sure that each individual board member receives a copy of our detailed email sent last week to the secretary and previous correspondence and all school correspondence with the schools since last week.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think you need this. Need that?
Are there any other members of the public that would like to speak?
So we are Carrie Schwartz, 83 Levita Road.
Marissa Sang, 61 Tobacco Street.
We are here on behalf of the Lebanon Elementary Schools PTA to say thank you for everything you guys do for Board of Education Appreciation Month. We have gotten, to keep with our tradition of the past couple years we've gotten stuff from town. So these are from a local farm in town, Blue Hill 2. She makes goat milk soap, so we got soaps, and we've miscounted yet again, I think, so we'll get better at that. So Rachel, because you're on PTA, you don't get
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so thoughtful. Thank you.
If there are no others, we will move right along. Moving on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Nicole, seconded by Brian. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. Student representatives report.
Hello. So, me and Holden sent out a Google form to all the classes regarding AI usage. One of the important questions that we had asked was if they had ever used AI before. 61.8% said yes, and 38.2% said no. 26.5% of the students had used AI for homework assistance and personal use, while 11.8% said they had used it for reading synopsis. 47.1% used different variety of sites, not just one singular one. 29.4% used ChatGPT, and the last 17.6% used Grammarly that was already downloaded onto their computers. We also asked if, with the new cell phone policy at Lyman, if they were using it more or if they were using it less. 35.3% said that they don't use AI at all, and 29.4% said same or yes or no. And there was no difference in those answers. So people that used AI with the 64.7% said they were unsure if their teachers had also used it, while 32.4% said yes that their teachers used it, 47.1% of students think that AI should be an option for students to use in school for different types of like ways to help them come up with homework assignments. And then 26.5% said either maybe or no to that. 52.9% of students said that they used AI for more than schoolwork and for more than just personal use. And then 47% said that they don't use it at all. One of the teachers that we know that does use AI for her classes is Miss Van Dyne, so we had sent her an email. She said that her goal was to focus on researching the best ways to implement AI in her classrooms and to teach her kids how to use it effectively and usefully. We had also emailed Mr. Johnson about like the middle school and how they're responding extremely well to the new AI and chatbots that they use in their classes. The students are able to dive deeper into their curriculum and classes and lessons and gather further insight into subject matters. And that is all we have for this meeting.
Great information.
Sounds like quite a bit. Thank you.
Any questions, comments from the board?
So just one question. So overall, at Lyman, mostly because that's where you are kids very happy about the introduction of AI into their curriculum?
I believe so.
Yeah.
From the results that we had gotten, the people that do use it, like that, teachers are starting to try and use it in their classrooms. And then for the people that didn't use it, just said not to use it at all.
It's a good direction to go in.
Yeah.
Good. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much. We move on to reports of committees. And policy.
Policy, we did not meet this month. The minutes are in this month's board packet, but I already gave them at the last month's meeting. So, thank you.
Danelle, strategic plan and curriculum.
So the curriculum committee met on February 25th with Rita. The minutes are in your packet, but for purposes of the public here. First item agenda was the ASD course proposal from Rebecca Burton, which is the Principles of Landscape Design as a full year course. Second thing we talked about was ELA at LES and the mid-year celebration. One of the highlights that Rita gave us was that there's high performance and growth according to our iReady diagnostics, not just, there's a lot of growth there. It's like performance and growth going hand in hand. She's also looking at the assessments that we're using right now and evaluating and what maybe is not so effective and what could be changed, and maybe we can get rid of some. We'll have to evaluate that this summer. The state also completed their assessment audit. Finally, we had a pretty long, robust discussion about the ELA new courses at the high school. I had asked kind of for like a mid-year evaluation since it's a brand new course offerings. And overall, students are enjoying it. One highlight for writing labs is that they think it's an excellent time to really get into writing, especially grammar and vocabulary use are being better addressed through writing labs. They have plenty of time to write now, more than they used to maybe. And then as far as the courses are, one frustration they're having is that they're not getting to all the reading materials that they want to. Like, what they have is great, but they're finding that some of them aren't quite getting as far along as they would have liked and as they planned, so they'll be reevaluating the methods and strategies used and maybe revising as necessary for the future. I appreciated one of the teachers polling students after they left his class for the first, as you remember, these are semester classes. So one of the teachers polled their students and asked them, what did you think of the change? And very favorable. Most of the students got their first choice. So it's like, it's great right now, but as they go maybe to their second choice next year or third choice, it may be different, but right now everyone seems to be enjoying it. One of the difficulties one student's voice was that there are multiple grades taking the courses together in the same period, so it's hard for maybe the younger groups to understand maybe some of the discussions in the higher groups and vice versa, or it's more challenging than they like. This is one personal opinion. And I think that is it. Again, you can look in the board packet for a much more detailed summary.
Any questions for Danelle? Thank you. Rachel, finance.
We did not meet this month.
Thank you. Sarah, superintendent evaluation.
No report.
I have three people, Sarah, Brian, and Nicole. School study.
I'll take it. We haven't met. The last meeting was the third week of January, and the RFQ that we were looking at needed to go back to the town attorney for some adjustment. And we were supposed to have a meeting set up in short order right after that. We have not. I followed up with an email to the first selectman's office after week number 3, and then I followed up last week. So we are now entering week 7 without a meeting. I've left a couple of messages. To be honest, I think it's time that something maybe came from the board chair or the two of us to move this forward, because I fear that now with funding for the town garage, since that was passed, I don't want this to fall on the wayside. The voters gave us $100,000 in order to do a study. We did one, and we've been working a year on this subcommittee to move it forward. And this process with the state is arduous and considerable, and the longer we wait, and again, it's just my assumption, but I think that we're waiting for a reason. I hope that's not the case, but I think it's time we push this forward.
Thank you for your persistence. We definitely don't want it to fall to the wayside, so we'll figure it out.
Give it a nudge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Dawn, safety and security.
No report.
Thank you. Alexis, negotiations.
No report.
Sherry, climate, culture, and enrollment.
We did not have a meeting last month. You did tonight, so stay tuned.
Sarah.
If I had a question or wanted to make a comment about a meeting that I'm not in the committee for, when would be the appropriate time for me to do that if it's not on the agenda?
During committee reports.
So now would be okay to speak to that? Just because I wanted to clarify something that was discussed in tonight's meeting, but I know Sherry will have a chance to give us some notes on that next time. The one thing I just wanted to mention, because I heard Andy kind of say, like, I'm looking for direction, I'm looking for, you know, if there's something that the board needs completed or gives the superintendent a task to complete, he needs to be clear on what that task is, and rather than just kind of letting it fester and then having it, you know, a repeated agenda item, which I think kind of came to the conclusion of we may need to talk about this at next month's meeting. Maybe we're done because there's really no other option. But I did just want to remind the committee that we did discuss this topic as a full board less than a year ago. I would say it was probably 6 months ago when we discussed class size as a whole group. And we were all on the same page then. So to Andy's point, if this is going to be a budget conversation, you know, it's not really fair to have the conversation, in my opinion, as we are about ready to pass the budget. I think that needs to be a different timed, planned, and thoughtful process if we're considering scheduling and what the implications to the budget would be. You know, and that process could take a year, 2 years, you know, but I thought it was important to bring up, and I'm not on the committee, so I just wanted to make sure that that point was, we were all reminded of that. It hasn't even been a year since we all sat down and had that conversation, and we thought we had put it to bed. So just letting everybody know, we had discussed it. So if we continue to discuss it every meeting, I don't know how opinions are going to change month after month. That's it. Thank you.
I would like to say something to that. I do recall the vote that we voted not to increase class sizes. And at that time, maybe because I was new, I didn't know if we were talking about a specific school or all along. I thought that it was for the younger grades, that we shouldn't increase those class sizes. And they are presently between 18 and 20, and I certainly wouldn't want to see them go any higher.
So it was a misunderstanding on your part.
Yes, it was. I didn't realize it was for all 3 schools, for all classes.
Just kind of put a bow on it. This all came about because of the school study subcommittee with the Board of Finance and Board of Selectmen. It was brought up at a meeting at the time, and it was just before the chair switched spots. Sarah was asked to come back to the board to take their temperature, so to speak, as to what the direction the board wanted to take, because it was important for planning purposes. And that's how that whole vote came about. Anyway, this is a jaunter down way back lane, or months ago. So.
And I think it's the case for every subcommittee that direction from the subcommittee doesn't mean direction from the full board as well. So keep that in mind. And while this topic wasn't formally charged to any subcommittee, there have been 2 subcommittees that have wanted to talk about it, and so they are talking about it. So no formal suggestion or recommendation has been presented to the board yet.
So Andy should not be doing anything, taking any type of movement in this.
Not in regards to what the board has already directed him to, in terms of any upcoming finance votes, then he might be forced to do something, but he continues with board directive of reasonable class sizes. Nicole, facilities.
No report.
East Con remains vacant. And governance, we met last week to discuss the agenda. Moving on to the administrators' reports. We have the administrator reports starting on page 25 of the board packet and additional email in high school as well. Would anybody like to add to their report? Quite comprehensive. Yeah, but I wanted to give them an opportunity. But it does not appear that they want to, so please go.
I have a couple of questions for each of your reports, and I'll try to keep it brief. First of all, at LAS, I wanted to say I really appreciate the multicultural, interdisciplinary Lunar New Year unit. I thought that was great. Also, I participated in the Invention Convention as a judge, and I want to give kudos to Mrs. Olson. She did an awesome job once again, and to all the kids that did their inventions, because they have good ideas. It was hard. It was hard this year.
I wasn't able to go this year. How many I don't think the report said how many participated. I saw the list of who's moving on, but did it say how many were participating? How many?
I didn't have it in the list, but I think it was close to 33, but I can get back to you.
Yeah,
Seems like it was a bigger
That's
than
awesome.
between
previous
30 and
years.
40.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And we had 2 high school students help with judging, and myself and 2 retired elementary school teachers came back. I had a question for you regarding some of the assessments, which maybe we'll talk about tonight. So just a quick question, maybe it's more of a thinking question. Where do you guys want to be with the performance of students who are at mid to above grade level reading, for example? That's kind of a question I have. And then for the middle school, a question, positive, I love what's happening in the greenhouse. I bought plants there myself last year, and my garden was great. I had a question about the AI. Just one part of it intrigued me. It talked about the students' reading materials can be adjusted to varying levels appropriate to their learning ability. Well, as an English teacher, I guess, I'm wondering if we're dumbing down the reading level, or if it's being used, maybe it's not in a reading class, maybe it's elsewhere. I think it's a good tool to have handy for teachers, especially in the special education department, but in mainstream classes, I know you can use it too. And I'm just like, it kind of hit me like, are they being challenged to grow as well, rather than just making it much easier to understand? That's a thought I had about that. And then finally at Lyman, I wanted to give you a shout out for all the communication that you've been sending to us board members and other people in the community about what's happening. I know we asked for that to happen to just help get more of the public involved, and so I've appreciated getting that and like have it earmarked so that I know what's going on and I can go to games or events or whatever. So thank you for doing that. Oh, and one more thing, Jess, you specifically pointed out the strategic plan pillars. And I think we'd also ask for those to be included in there too. So if the other ones were in there, I didn't pay attention. Hers was the first one. So I was like, hey, here it is. Yeah, it's too. So thank you for doing that.
I just have an overall comment, and I think it's for the board as well as for the administrators, that I believe this month is 5 years since the whole COVID thing and we all had to do our thing. So I think we should all be very, like, almost celebrate, like, wow, like we made it and we're almost back to normal, or we are back to normal. But I think we all should be proud of where we were, where we are now, because other districts aren't where we are now and what we came from. So it's just a great thing to celebrate.
Well said.
I enjoy seeing comparisons between this time last year and now. And the one that stuck out to me this time was at the middle school and the disciplinary matters. So, well, I read them and I'm like, that seems so high. And then I look at, oh, that's what it was before. Okay, I think we're doing all right. Thank you for that. Comments or questions? Did anyone want to respond to Danelle's questions? She moved through them pretty quickly. Some of them might get addressed. So. Thank you. It was very quiet tonight. Report of the superintendent.
Well, you're going to hear a lot from them when we get into the mid-year data reports. I think that they might be reserving their comments and answers in trying to address them here. I do want to go on record also to thank the administrators for the detailed reports that they give you and all the communications that they've been putting out to the community. It is really impressive, so thank you for that. So we are here tonight as part of the superintendent report. First, I will touch on the update on the town surplus projects. As I've been giving you updates kind of over the past couple months, we are ahead of our own set schedule in terms of the use of funding for technology and implementation of our smart boards, of the rollout of the desktops and the student laptops. So we're in a really good place with tech. I was hoping that we might be able to have this be the last update and be ahead of schedule even on the access control system. We're not done yet, but I do think we had kind of set the April break as like a benchmark, and I think we're going to be done before that. The electricians have been in, wires, door hardware has been installed, but we are at the mercy of some of the vendors in terms of the actual material that's needed to install the access control. We're hoping to see that done in the next couple of weeks. John, anything I leave out, you think?
No, that's good.
All right. Now to the mid-year data presentation. It is amazing to think that we're already kind of at or past the mid-year point, and we're here to celebrate student growth and talk about the data on a more detailed level and be able to share with you what our plans are to continue to improve. So when we look at, hold on, I might be out of range here.
Well, Andy is futzing. As far as the administrative reports go, they are wonderful. Thank you for them. But the part I wanted to just remind each of you is I hope that you're not just doing them for us, because from a leadership standpoint, it's a great reminder every month about what you did and where you've come from. And if for no other reason, Chad, it helps your performance appraisal. You know, you got everything all there. You can just write it out when Andy, you know. But no, seriously though, it really is a testament to what you're doing each month. And I hope you do look back and say, wow.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian, for buying me some time too.
Yep. That's what I'm here for, buddy. Fill the space.
So, as I was saying, it's hard to believe that we're already at the mid-year point and talking about improvement of our students and looking at continuing to grow our practice. And that aligns perfectly with bullet 1 from our Board of Education goals. We've talked about wanting to be a district that tenaciously pursues this continuous improvement. Into bullet 2, you'll see that one of our goals is around, in our theories of action, from our district strategic plan on that sense of belonging. We're going to get into that as well. So I'm just going to quickly go through the theories of action so I can turn it over to what really should be the stars of the presentation, and that's looking at the student performance data. But we are, in our first district goal, working to have a personalized student-centered approach with our teaching and learning, trying to create meaningful instruction and assessment that's through an articulated curriculum. And in theory of action 2, really focusing on our systems and structures across the district to put in place systems that support learning, reflection, and collaboration. Every time Cassidy and Holden share, that student voice and choice seems to be coming more to the forefront. So I'm proud of the efforts we're making in our theory of action for District Goal 2. And then District Goal 3, our theory of action, is around that sense of belonging that I connected to the Board of Education goal. So at this point, we'd like to review the DESA data. I know that Dawn will come up and join Rita at the table for this portion of the presentation.
And just as, thank you, Andy, so much for reviewing those goals. So all of the next slides that you'll be seeing from all the 3 buildings, and then of course from the People Services area and the Department of the Social Emotional, they're all of our work is aligned, right, with these goals. Everything that we met in the summer, I mean, if you think back, I love that everybody's thinking back as to where we came from, because it really is, it is important. We just did it with teachers, and we need to do it as administrators. So it is an opportunity for us to think about that. But mostly this area is in our goal 3, that social emotional piece. But that you'll see from the buildings, a lot of their work and their data is centered more towards goal 1 and goal 2.
Okay, so DESA gives us all these charts, and this is the comparison between the the beginning of the year DESA and the one we did in February. And the bar graphs are pretty similar. This is for the whole district. You can go school by school, and they are similar with a little slight increase in the need in the second one, except for the high school. It went down slightly. And then you can also look at it at student ratings. This is strictly teacher ratings. So we can go to the next slide. This is my favorite slide because it shows the movement. So we can see that in the beginning of the school year, we had 62 students who were in need for instruction, and it moved to 42. So of those 62, 20 went up. So that shows that our interventions are working. And as last year, we noticed that sometimes those typical students might move to the needs for instruction because the demands get a little higher as the year goes on. So we can also do that for each building. And then that's what I did as I met with each building. And we can go to the next slide. And the positives is that the growth in students exhibiting a strength went up 2%, but that's 19 students. And that's through our Tier 1 instruction. The student movement from need to typical was 32%, which is 20 students, and that shows our interventions. There were challenges. One of the challenges that the K-8 DESA, they changed the questions, and when I met with the elementary school, they're finding that some of the questions don't align for the lower elementary school students, so it kind of, there are things that you wouldn't see in younger students, so it's making their score seem that they're at need. On Thursday, I actually have a webinar with DESA, the Connecticut cohort, with the mid-year check-ins, so I'm sure that something's going to be addressed, but it's unfortunately Thursday, so I wasn't able to share what everyone else is seeing with this new DESA rollout, just for K through 8. We also saw some typical students moving to a need, and again, I mentioned that's an increase in the demands over the years. And then at each building, new intervention groups will begin. At LES, the kindergarten did show significant needs, so they've created 3 lunch bunch groups, which will address the needs of 10 students, which will go for 6 weeks, and they're going to work on problem solving, following directions, and social skills. The majority of the other students already were receiving services at the elementary school through 504 or an IEP. And then other things that they're doing to address students at needs are incentives, check-in, check-outs, and consults with the teachers. LMS, we also found most students were already receiving some type of intervention through a formalized plan or through previous need for instruction. There were only 3 new students identified, and they will be incorporated into the already formed groups. The high school looks at things a little differently. They look at the competencies, and then they hope to, the counselors will share materials with the gen ed teachers to address the whole population in the areas that they showed weakness, like social awareness and decision making, and that's as a whole. And then because of the high school students, the team met, and all 4 of the counseling staff will meet individually with students to do check-ins.
Thank you, Don. If you can just go back, one of the things that you'll see also through the buildings is something that we heard you guys share, that you not only wanted to hear the positives, and this is something we've been streaming through our curriculum subcommittee, but also what are the challenges. So you'll see at the end of every report these positive challenges, and then of course the most important thing, so that in the spring, right, we'll give you and hopefully see student improved outcomes, is based on our steps. So that's how you'll see it through the next, okay? Elementary school.
Yes, we're
So of course, Stephanie DeLucia, instructional coach.
So this is our DIBELS data. DIBELS is a state mandated grades K-3 universal screen assessment. So all of our students in grades K-3 receive a series of 1-minute assessments in the fall, winter, and spring. And it serves as kind of like a net to see who may need some extra support. So you can see we've had some growth since the fall. DIBELS has a range of assessments, so I kind of picked the main ones that we really look at by the end of the year. So for kindergarten, nonsense word fluency, so that's students being able to read those CVC words, and we are up to 33% of our students, this was back in January when we gave that are now reading, which is awesome. First grade oral reading fluency is just reading a passage. We're up to 56% of our students doing that fluently and accurately. And then in second grade, we focus more on accuracy because they are already reading. So we're up to 60% and 75% of students that are right where they need to be at or above benchmark on those assessments.
The next slide talks about, you've seen this data before with iReady. This is our diagnostic. So as a reminder, our kindergarteners don't take the fall assessment, but we were able to show them and introduce them to the diagnostic for the first time mid-year. And so you will see some nice scores for kindergarten despite not having to take the fall too. So we see that in reading, the 69% and 42% in math. And then if you just scan down, again, this is our diagnostic that is assessing the ELA and math. We're seeing positive growth, and these are percentages for students at or above grade level for this time of year. As a reminder, our 3rd and 4th graders take this diagnostic in December because soon they're actually preparing for the end of year assessment too, because we try to space it out with their smarter balance testing too.
I have a question, if I may. I'm wondering, the kindergarten, were these numbers this high previously, or do you think there's any correlation between the fact that there aren't as many younger kindergartens anymore?
Oh, that's a great question.
That is a really good question. Yeah, we are seeing some positive growth in terms of higher percentages this year. In regards to, we do have some students that were accepted through kindergarten entry last year. So we do continue to have some of the birthdays those birthdays. Just, off the cuff, we took some data on the students that were kindergarten entry, and we did see about 1/3 of those students are receiving intervention. So we are looking closely at that group too. I have less students, as another data point, I have less students applying for kindergarten entry this year.
Also, with our universal screen with the dibbles, at the beginning of the year in the fall, we were able to identify a group of students in kindergarten who informally may need some extra support. So we didn't really identify them as needing like formal intervention, but all the intervention is pushed in. And just to give you an example of the 18 students that we began with at the beginning of the year, we were down to 9 in January. So I also think using our data to really be proactive in kindergarten was helpful too. This is our progress to typical growth on iReady. So that's one thing that we like about iReady is it takes the students and it really kind of gives them an aim line. This time of year, we want to see 50% growth by all of our students. So you can see on this, by each grade level, we achieve that or higher in both ELA and math as grade levels. So we were really excited about that. I think someone had pointed out earlier, this is the first time since using iReady that all the grades were in that high performance, high growth quadrant on iReady, which was exciting to see.
I think this also, Danelle, answers your question too, or response to your question, that we're looking for 50%. We really focus in on growth because we want all students, no matter where they start with, we want them to make that 50% growth now, 100% by the end of the school year. So that's our target more than anything.
And Jess and I have had some conversations when looking at the data too, that high performance, high growth is something that's really attractive for us to look at because that's also super important on Smarter Balance. There's a big emphasis on growth, not only performance, in how those scores are looked at.
When we're seeing the growth data for ELA, we are really happy, especially since this is the rollout of the 2 new programs this year. So this is 75% growth at the mid-year point with the new reading program and the new phonics program.
And then this is our growth in math, so slightly less, but still above that 50%, which is good. We are higher than we were this time last year in all grade levels. So that's something that we still want to be even higher, but in comparison, we're moving in the right direction.
So some celebrations that I touched upon already. So 70% of our K students are above for phonemic awareness, 56 for first grade for phonics too. 78% for our second grade students for those high frequency words, and 95% for our third graders for the high frequency words too. And then we just touched upon those that growth point mid-year for ELA at 75 and 58% for math.
So some of the positives that we saw after reviewing all of our mid-year data is obviously the implementation of Savvis MyView literacy in grades K-4 has definitely helped increase our scores. We see an increase in student engagement. The stories are very culturally responsive. We're seeing content knowledge being integrated into that program. So far it's been very successful. Like I said before, the use of M-class data is really providing us a proactive approach to intervention, which I think is definitely helping our students with their success. Magnetic reading is our phonics program, so we definitely see a correlation between our phonics scores and our high frequency word scores on those assessments. As I said, our math scores are higher this year compared to last year at the same time. I think last year, at the beginning of the year, we started at like 8% in some grades. So we're definitely started at a higher rate and continue to do that. And we also really focused on a schedule that allowed access for all of our students to have that grade level content. So our special education students are in the classroom for that Tier 1 instruction. We had to change our schedule in order to make that happen, and that's allowing all of our students to have access to grade level content throughout the day. Some challenges, although our math scores are better, we still want to see them higher. That math growth needs to increase faster in order to close those gaps. So that's something we're focusing on. Along with that, our math pacing in grades 2 to 4, we really need to focus on those priority standards and just keep the standards in mind and look vertically to, again, accelerate our learning. We are focusing on writing instruction. You have to understand that we're incorporating a new reading program, phonics program, and writing program. So Savvis MyView Literacy has the reading and the writing. it's hard to give 100% on both. Writing has been a challenge, and I'm hearing that statewide with all the new programs. Like, it is hard to do both really well. So we're really trying to integrate and look more into the science of writing, and the teachers know every year we're going to get better and better at this. So it's been a challenge, but we're doing things slow and well versus trying to like go all in on everything. So I think that's good. Our next steps, we are just beginning to progress monitor students that are receiving Tier 2 interventions. So that will hold a little bit more accountability on making sure that those students are receiving that intervention. We have continued professional learning opportunities, thanks to Rita and Jess with their support of the different consultants that come in. So
Can I just speak to the professional learning too? We shared this presentation with our staff this past Wednesday too. And I haven't even told Rita yet. There were lots of great celebrations about the professional learning that has been provided this year and with the benefit of that. So I appreciate the support along the way, and people are making use of that time and really getting a lot out of it and want to continue with that professional learning.
And if I could jump into just a couple things, we mentioned the new kind of literacy programs and approaches. We're not long from putting out a new math program too. So there's been a lot of change. And to see these results early on is exciting, and to think how we can continue to grow. Speaking of continuing to grow, when Jess shared this presentation with her staff, they were doing grade level activities of, all right, here's where we are, what do we need to do to move forward? So they're diving in already as grade level teams to improve their instructional practices, to talk about pacing, to look at their assessment data. So I know that we've talked a lot about, board level and maybe administrative level, how do we continue to grow? But our teachers are working very hard on a daily basis to do that.
And with the professional learning that we've had great consultants that literally the next day the teachers will be applying something that they learned. We take a picture, we send it to our consultants. Like, it's been pretty amazing to see. It's not just like a one and done. They're definitely using it and are excited to share with each other. Along with that, we've had a lot of team planning time. That's been very helpful, just to have the teams plan together, kind of plan backwards, looking ahead, because they don't know what they don't know when it comes to these programs, because it's all new. So to have that dedicated time to really explicitly plan and look carefully has been very helpful and is definitely benefiting our students. Another next step is to analyze that stretch growth in the spring for our special education students and our intervention students. So although we want our typical student to reach that 100% growth, we really want our special education students to get closer to 100% stretch growth, because they're the ones that really need to accelerate and catch up faster. Sometimes it takes multiple years to get that growth, so we really want to look deeply at that stretch growth to see which kids are getting there, so we can really close that achievement gap.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ella? We have Erica Strong, our instructional coach at the middle school, joining us as well this evening.
So to start, we've had some really great growth in reading. I always like to point out too, our kids tend to start kind of high in the fall in reading more so than math, but that just isn't a testament to how much I think our kids are really starting to love reading, because we've offered so many choices and we have such a a great library within the classrooms. So if you notice up there, we went from 46% of students that are on or above grade level to at mid-year 60%, which is great, and we'll keep fighting and working to make that higher. You can also notice that yellow bar has gotten much smaller, and same with the red. And if I could, to address a question earlier from Danelle, when we talk about differentiation and when we have students in our classes now within our inclusion model, if you notice that red, we have students, for example, in a 7th grade classroom who are reading at maybe a 4th or 5th grade level. So we always like to offer choice to a student, and we never want to say no if they want to read about something, or they have a firm, love for dirt bikes and they want to read about dirt bikes. It's cool that we can use AI as a tool to take that article and change it for them, because that's a very fair statement that we don't want to hinder them. But that's a great tool for us. So just focusing on reading, because we'll go into math. Really great gains, especially in our fifth grade, our eighth grade, and in between. But again, it's really nice to see that we're almost above that 50%, or really are up. I'm sorry, above the 50% at mid-year, and made some really great growth. Yeah, even more than last year, which we'll get into. Then we have our math. Our math has also made some very good strides. The colored breakdown, you can see that we went from 44% at the beginning of the year at or above grade level, and now we are up to 54%, which is great. That's a 10% increase. Math is still one that the state says is one we're not catching up with COVID, which is so, tough. So to see the growth is great, and our math teachers doing the stuff they are is definitely excellent, something to celebrate. So looking at the math data, here are the numbers, breakdown of grades. We'll definitely address some of them more specifically in the next slide, but again, that 50% is a great goal. Speaking to what the LES also had referenced, our goal at the mid-year is for students to get 50%. I always explain this number because it's a kind of hard thing to explain. If you were to line up all of our students and find that middle student in performance, what percent growth would they be at? So when you're looking at that fifth grade, the middle student in ELA is at their growth is 138%. And that's wonderful. That's great because again, we don't expect 100 till the spring. But again, we'll address some of those in the future. But it is great to see those that are above 100 or even above 50.
So, there's been a lot of talk about AI, but keep in mind that it's an ends to a means, and the ends to the means that it started with at LMS was to help leverage our teachers' ability to promote inclusion and differentiation in their classrooms. So I really wanted to pop out a slide that focuses on where we're at with our reading and math achievement gaps between our special ed population and our non-special education population. Now again, this is a program, we're talking bell schedule. We're talking taking special education kids, and as one of our consultants, this is one of my favorite phrases I heard this year, putting butts in seats. And that's really what we've done, is put butts in seats. And that's put a lot of stress, and we've had a lot of difficult conversations with our teachers about changing the philosophy to more of a student-centered, guide on the side instead of sage on the stage philosophy that addresses the needs of every single student in our school. So that takes time, and AI is one tool that I feel strongly will allow us to kind of supercharge teachers' ability to differentiate their instruction. So you're not going to see the results that we want to see yet, for sure. But I want to put this up here and kind of maybe keep circling back to this a year from now, and hopefully we're going to see a much smaller difference between the blue, which is the special education students who are at or above grade level in reading, versus our non-special education students on the winter iReady diagnostic, and then again here for the math as well.
All right, so some really great positives. We looked at last year's presentation to this one. All grades saw gains in math and reading, whereas last year we did notice that 8th grade math hadn't made as much growth, but all grades did for mid-year, which is wonderful. The median reading student is 112% towards their growth goal. We're up from 95 last year, again, great numbers. And then 60% of all math and reading students are on or above. So we're up from last year in math by 8% and 6% in reading for mid-year. So always good to look back, as Stephanie and Jess did, to really look at us hopefully starting higher and getting higher, which is what it's showing, which is great.
I can go if you want.
Yep.
So for the challenges, referencing the slides I showed earlier with the graphs, decreasing that gap between special education and regular education. We've always looked at the achievement gap at the end of SBAC when we get our performance profiles from the state, but this is the first time that we've really looked at iReady diagnostic data and teased out the special education students as well. So we'll continue to take a closer and closer look at how the needs of special education students are being met. And again, as Jess referenced and Steph referenced that stretch growth to be able to close that gap. And then the next challenge in the bullet there, it says address the score reversal in 7th grade reading and 8th grade math. One of the other things that kind of talked a lot about in the year and a half that I've been here are, you know, the student motivation, right? Sleeping on the roof and things of that nature, which basically that's inherent of middle school, right? Student motivation is at the crux of everything that you're doing with a middle school student. And so within what you don't see in the data that Erica presented, you see overall growth, which is great. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, when you're looking at some individual kids within that data, they crashed and burned. So you might have had a student who in the fall was at or above grade level, and when they took the test in the winter, they said, you know what, click, 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 I'm done. And then their score crashes. Now, within a certain, the iReady program, within some certain confines, it will flag them if they rush, and we can redo that test. But they're middle school students, they're tech savvy, and very oftentimes they'll know how to game the system. So if you were to take out the students, so that's bad, right? We don't want that. However, if you were to take away those scores that did crash and burn, and assume that they still know the same things in September or in January that they knew in September, and you were to add those back to the scores that we showed you, then technically it would be even higher. So 2 ways to look at it. But that's something that we want to continue to address is student motivation in everything that they do.
And also to piggyback on that, a lot of times we're finding too that when teachers have that conversation with students prior to an assessment and talking to them and talking about the things they've learned and how much they should grow and how much potential they have, that really helps. And we see that with certain teachers who do it because they want to know we believe in them. And then students, when sometimes they have that sticky note of what their score is, to see them run up, even the tough ones. What was my score? But they are excited. It's good. It's great.
And I'm glad you brought that up. You know, when we go back to our goals, right, we're supposed to, it's not just about an assessment. We're also hoping for them to build some skills of life skills. So goal setting is something we all should be doing, right? That's a forever thing. You always should be trying to think of ways to improve yourself, whether it's as a spouse or as a professional, right, personal, all those pieces. So this goal setting is something that iReady, actually, the company also very much pushes. They provide us with a lot of resources on how to guide our teachers in appropriate goal setting. So it is something, I'm glad you brought that up, that we're starting as early as kindergarten and building that up.
In terms of next steps, we mentioned, especially with the grant that Chad so awesomely received, that using those AI tech tools to better differentiate so as the teacher, but also with students. And when we say that, we mean, as I mentioned, the text leveling, of course, that's one example. But what's really cool is teachers, their load can really be lessened by some of these things that it will do or suggest. I've always heard AI is really good for the stuff that you know how to do, but you don't have the time for. And that's something that's great because obviously you're gonna have to, look at it after, but with our students, we are really working, and this has kind of just been launched, but we're trying to use AI with the students. For example, them using and having their own little tutor, or super cool, they can talk to a historical figure from the 1900s, or they can talk to a character in a novel, and that stuff we're starting and we're seeing pretty, I think, excitement, but also like, wow, this is pretty cool. So
last night, my son, he's a junior, and he used it. He had an assessment or something, and the teacher provided a rubric. So he wrote it. He typed out everything. He puts it into the AI chat, and he says, "How would I score if I submitted this? Are there any suggestions?" And so it's like a tutor. It's not giving him the answer. So it went back and it said, "You should elaborate more on chapter 3. Consider the rubric point." Blah blah blah. Like it gave him and I was watching with him last night as he was doing it. So it does have some power behind. It's not the philosophy that's just giving answers. Yes, there's pieces you can just get answers, but it is also can be a significant, and in particular with Magic School AI.
and even building off the student report, which I really appreciated, we have to teach kids how to use it. So that's kind of our plan. Our special education and our gen ed teachers are meeting a lot more often, whether it be one-on-one or as a group, and we've provided that and want to continue to provide that time. We also have our MTSS day where we will, as a team of all teachers, all different kinds of specialties and SEL, as well as Chad and myself, will meet and determine the next round of students who need intervention, for whether it be SEL or academic. And we've had that, now it'll be our 4th time. So it's really great to have those data discussions.
We also have a certified, something we didn't put on here. This year we got lucky. We got a tutor, through the grants that I submit, Title I. She was a certified English teacher. So she's been a nice asset to the reading piece as well, and the language arts, in particular to our multilingual learners. So that's another point. Thank you, guys. Finally, at Lyman, we don't have as much data, They get tested at the high school in classes all the time.
But we want to start by thanking the elementary school and the middle school, not only for their leadership, but for the work that your teachers are doing, because you feed us.
Yes,
and all of that sounded really good, so thank you so much.
Actually, we're doing a leadership walkthrough on St. Patrick's Day, and we are having different administrators. Erica's coming and Sue's coming to see our new reading program at the elementary on Monday. So we're jumping into classes, just 10 minutes, and Andy's joining us, and it's called like a formalized walkthrough. It's a suggested recommendation and the implementation of year 1, so we're excited. So Sue will be seeing it in action. Looking forward to it.
So the PSATs are given to Lyman students twice a year. Grade 9 will do them in April, March timeframe, and grades 10 and 11 do that in the fall, in October. Now, what we did this year with the SAT data, we color-coded the data. So grades 9 and 10 are in green on that side because they actually took the test as 9th graders in April. And then in October, they took that test as sophomores. They're in green on the other side because that's that same group taking the test as juniors. They took the test this fall as juniors. They will be taking the SATs, the state junior assessment, in like 2 weeks. Like 2 weeks. Yeah. They have already, most of our students have already taken the NGSS test, the science test for juniors. We do not have any results from that yet. We're hoping to get that by the end of the year. But I thought making that the green color there kind of makes it, at least you can, they don't line up well underneath each other because that's not when they were tested. Grade 11 on the other side, just for your reference, that's our current seniors right now. That's where they come from.
Jay, can you go back 1 second? So if I'm just reading this right, so grade 9, 448.
Yes.
I'm going to look at 468 in grade 10?
No.
Here, just let me,
yeah.
Yeah. So these are the same kids. They tested in
April.
And now this is where they were.
Oh.
Right? And
okay.
now this is where they are.
Okay.
And then boom, boom, boom.
Got you. Okay.
So there's quite a bit of growth there.
And then what's the orange?
The orange is our current sophomores who took the test as freshmen in grade 9 and then this October as grade 10.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay? So those kids that took that as grade 11 there, they will be taking the SATs in 2 weeks. And again, if you look, you do see growth there. I mean, if you look across, the numbers are growing, and even our grade 9 students, and going from grades 9 to 10, the grade 9 PSAT is not given widely. There's not a lot of students that take that. Okay, across the state, across the country, the numbers go up as you go up in grade. So more students, across the country, across Connecticut, take grade 10, and pretty much everyone does 11 because in grade 11, how you score on that could get you money on National Merit Scholarship.
So basically, all your kids are above the state average. Or most of them.
There was one, and again, I'm not, you point out the positives and the negative, right? So that year, we were 1 point on the PSATs below the state. But again, when you look at how far our freshmen, were above the group that took it, and again, look at the drop off. So this was a year ago, right? That was the state average, 425. The state average when they took it this go around was 400. There was a decrease there. Yes, did we go down? Yeah, we did. But the state went down more, like that other number went down more. Yes.
Are these numbers, like for example, 448, the average ninth grade score?
Yes. Yes.
All
on that particular section.
Right.
Okay.
Very impressive.
I'll do this one too. So this one, this was comparing ninth grade to ninth grade for the evidence-based reading and writing. So the 23 test and the 24 test, they went up by 1.5 percentage points there. Okay, the state actually went down. We went down. Remember, like I said, we went down a certain number. We went down 4.7%, but the state went down 5.9% based on the students that took that. And then here again, it's comparing, grade 10. We went down slightly. I think it was like 3. It was like 3 points. Like if you went back to the other one, and the state went up slightly. And the same thing here. We went up unchanged from the, there was no, it was unchanged from there.
So Jay, the state changes their averages like almost every year?
The state average changes, yeah.
Do they just take a pressure point of all the schools in
That's
Connecticut?
everybody that took it. Yeah.
Everybody that took it.
Everybody that took it. Yeah.
I know.
And again,
so
like
much
I said,
math behind it.
Yeah. Ninth grade, the number isn't as big. It could be like 10,000 students in the state. This could be like 40 to 50,000, and then the number keeps going up.
What was the reason that the state had, just out of curiosity, statewide, for the big drop in math?
I mean,
that's what they say.
No.
It's lack
fair.
of instruction.
I mean,
I know.
It's harder to hold on to the math
Yeah.
skills according to the state than it is to
Yeah.
hold on to the reading skills. And we're also reading constantly. You're not necessarily utilizing those skills the same way.
Same way.
Like you're reading online, even if it's social media, you're still reading.
Yeah.
Got it.
And this is just
Yeah,
the
I mean,
same.
that's just-
This is just a graph.
it's a pretty bar graph.
Yeah. And here's the last slide.
And the positives, we already pointed out most of them, that we are above the state average on the PSATs again this year, in all areas. Another highlight positive, we've been working very, very hard with student motivation during our pause, during our assemblies and things like that. And our attendance, we have about 6% right now that are chronically absent. And last year at this same time, it was 16, is that correct? Or we had 16 for the year, so we are on a good projectile for attendance this year. Let's see here.
I like that next bullet.
Every month we celebrate our perfect attendance this year, something new we started, and we have somewhere between 160, 175 students each month with perfect attendance. And then we ran the numbers for like 1 day missed, et cetera, and they're really, really high. And then let's see here, MTSS process. SRBI, some people know that as we meet every other week to assess any children that are struggling behaviorally, socially, and academically. You see our poster up there, and we presented this to you guys before, but we are at a much less rate right now than what we were last year at this time, and that is awesome. So something's going right there. Challenges?
Yeah, I mean, we want our scores to go up. You know, when we want to get our kids on this test, their scores higher, get them closer to proficiency. We recognize, I mean, if you look at the numbers, math is lagging. Math is lagging. So we want to definitely work on that and pick those up. Our evidence-based reading and writing, the average score is close to what students would need to for proficiency. You have to get to 480 on the SATs for proficiency in the evidence-based reading and writing. Our average score is right at 478. So our average score is right almost where that target needs to be, but we are lagging in math, and that's something that we recognize and we have to work on. And we're having talks with the math department on things we can do to help with that.
And a couple of the next steps, you just mentioned the math. We're working, thanks to Rita, helping us align with the 8th grade and Chad at the middle school with Algebra 1, so that the kids are getting a very similar experience in the 8th grade as they would when they get up here for Algebra 1, and we're doing the same thing for Spanish 1 as well. Again, the English department, there's been a lot of talk on those new writing courses and the reading courses. We're continuing, the teachers are continuing to revise that curriculum, to tweak it to what went well, what didn't, so next year it'll be even better. And then the last thing is, one of our goals this year is to increase motivation and engagement and attendance, and we're doing that by doing more student-centered instruction. And Rita's been great by providing the PD for our teachers, and different things that Jay and I have been putting together for our teachers. So that's where we're going this year.
We've been doing the inclusion up here as well. And remember that a lot of kids don't always come from our, right? There's a cohort that don't experience K through 8 here. So the high school, some of those challenges too is trying to find the equity, trying to make sure, get everyone up to par, because they might have not done the same sort of math experiences that our students have here, as well as language arts. So.
Thanks, Lyman.
And that concludes our presentation. We just wanted to thank you for your time, and I wanted to thank, I've been harassing these guys every week. How are we thinking? They've been data diving with me, data diving on their own, data diving all over the place. So thank you to them, and Andy, of course, for your support in that. And then I hope you guys got the presentation on Friday, right? It was one of your ones, I think last year, John, you brought it up. So we wanted to do that. And of course, if you have questions, after you process all this, please know that you can reach out to me. And I don't know if we answered all of Danelle's questions that you had. Okay.
I just wanted to point out, not to discount anybody's work because it's all great, but particularly of note, 6th grade math, it's like destroying it, which that has historically been a struggle. And I know you guys didn't specifically point that out, but I noticed it, and I think others should notice that. That is an area that has historically been a challenging grade level subject that we've historically not done very well with. So
yes, and it's a combinations of reasons. But one of the things that we're on March 28th is our professional development. iReady's coming back. We're targeting, one of the things that iReady's doing is building thinking classrooms, which is what I'd be happy to share it at a curriculum subcommittee, the philosophy behind it. But it's also embedded with iReady. The teacher in 6th grade, as particular, I've been sending her to PD on it. She's read about it. She did summer work on it. And so one of the steps that actually Eric and I were just talking about is that from then we're gonna get the other math teachers to go visit her classroom and do some that's kind of a next step that we forgot to actually add, but that is one of the next steps. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Cassidy. Have a good night.
Thank you.
On to announcement. Follow along in your packet. It starts on page 30.
Hey, Martha. That's great. I see you over there behind the big screen.
So there's no significant updates to report really with the budget for 24-25.
I did, in my February update, put that we have received our first payment for the excess cost reimbursement. We typically receive that first payment, which is about 75% of what we're entitled to get in February. We'll get the other 25% in the spring. We're still, waiting to get the final word. We do know that the governor has signed the legislation. So we're just waiting to see what that impact will have for us, if it means additional money or not. And of course, at this time of year, we always monitor the heating costs, but it looks like, barring any, significant cold snaps, we should be pretty good with that. And for the non-lapsing, we have take into consideration the ongoing projects. We have $71,722.77. The lens, the additional sensors is in progress, and that's one of the last projects that we have on the list to work on this year using the non-lapsing. That is underway, so.
Any questions?
Are we still in a hard freeze?
No. We're being very conservative, and we're still analyzing critically any order that comes through, but we are not in a hard freeze anymore.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you, Martha.
Thank you.
All right, so moving on to new business.
So new business, but we were planning to have another policy meeting between, well, whatever, but we didn't because of the budget and, well, we did have two set for first reading tonight. The subcommittee did not go back through them, so I would like to go back through them first and then bring them forward next month. So we will forego the readings of first on those two.
To action items. Act on letter of resignation. Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we accept the letter of resignation with regret.
Second.
Motion by Brian, seconded by Nicole. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Next, act on compliance with the Connecticut nutrition standards for the 2025-2026 school year. Is there a motion?
Move to act on the compliance with the Connecticut nutrition standards for the 2025-26 school year.
Second.
Motion by Nicole, seconded by Brian. Discussion.
This is one of those ones that.
Oh, we need
We gotta read
Yeah,
it.
Danelle has
That's
the
right.
verbiage in front of her,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
we'll
Got to
probably
read.
take your
Sorry,
motions back.
I
Right.
jumped too quickly.
We retract said motion.
So Danelle is making the motion.
Yes, Danelle's making a motion.
Okay. Starting.
And will you give that to the recording secretary?
Sure. Yeah, you won't be able to keep up with me.
She might be able to.
Okay, I make a motion that pursuant to the Connecticut General Assembly Section 10-2015F, the Lebanon Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups.
I second.
And if anybody is looking for that motion, it is on page 60 of our packet. Motion by Brian, motion by Janelle, seconded by Brian. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that is unanimous. act on exclusion of selected foods and beverages from the Connecticut Nutrition Standards for the 2025-2026 school year.
Motion?
No.
Approve. The Lebanon Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or a school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The quote, regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food and beverage sales.
Motion by Danelle, seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Items for next agenda. Noisy Mo, exactly.
It was like something from Animal House. I state your name. I state your name.
All right. That concludes the meeting. We will adjourn at 8:56.
Oh, sorry. That was Sarah, you take the fun out of everything.
I'm known for that.
Suck the air out of a room.
That's not what I heard.